Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to Friday, and the last Friday before Christmas. And we have got some live album ranking. I'm going to do a bit of Southern American rock today. And one of the great Southern rock bands, Molly Hatchet. One of my favourite American bands. Formed in Jacksonville in 1971. Very popular in the late 70s, mid 80s. But sadly, as from 2020, all the original members of the band are sadly no longer with us. But there are people in the band that keep the music going, and I've got no problem with that, personally. So, they have released 9 live albums, which is pretty good. And we're going to have a look at them today. So, coming in at number 9... Now this was released in 1981 and it's called Molly Hatchet Live EPA Series. Now this was recorded on the 31st of December 1980 at the Lakeland Civic Arena. Lead guitar was Dave Hulbeck and Dwayne Rowland and Steve Holland. Lead vocals Jimmy Farrar. Bass guitar Banner Thomas, and on the drums the one and only Mr. Bruce Crump. Now, this is one of them albums that I really detest when it comes to live albums. The cheapo, let's nick stuff from other concerts type thing. This has got Beating the Odds on it, few and far between. Penthouse Pauper, Dead and Gone, Double Talker and Sailor. Okay, some really interesting versions of this on here. I'll talk about them later anyway. The only thing is Penthouse Pauper's not on most albums. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10 because even though it's a cheap, nasty, it has got a couple of tracks that don't appear on others. Okay, coming in at number 8, we have another sort of these greatest hits things, and it's called Molly Hatchet's Greatest Hits Live. Recorded in 1982 at the Palladium in Los Angeles. The band at the time were on bass, Banner Thomas. On drums, Bruce Crump. Guitar, Dave Hulbeck. Dwayne Rowland and Steve Holland. And Jimmy Farrar on the vocals. So it starts off from... We have a bit of the Beating the Odds, which is a great track. Always good live. Then we go to Flirtin Disaster for a bit of Let the Good Times Roll and It's All Over Now. Really good tracks live. Then we go to Take No Prisoners for a bit of Lady Luck. That's always a good track to have. Fly back to Flirtin with Disaster for a bit of Warner Man's Pleasure. Excellent track as it is. Dead Giveaway back to Take No Prisoners. Then we go to the debut album for a bit of Gator Country, which is always brilliant. And then we have that cover, the Allman Brothers cover. They do Dreams I'll Never See, which is on the debut album, of course. The title track from Flirtin Disaster, absolutely great track. Bounty Hunter from Molly Hatchet. Bloody Reunion from the Take No Prisoners. And Boogie No More from Flirtin with Disaster. Not a bad album. It was taken off a radio broadcast. It's got the classic sort of one of the classic lineups of Molly Hatchet. I don't mind this album one little bit. And I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 7, this is one from 2019, so it's one of the more up-to-date ones, and it's called Battleground, and it was released in 2019. It was recorded in Switzerland in Pratteln and Ludwigsburg in Germany, and in the United States during their 40th anniversary tour. So the band now is on bass Tim Lindsley, on drums the brilliant Sean Beamer, guitar the fantastic Bobby Ingram, keyboards is John Galvin, and the vocals on this is Jimmy Elkins. So this one starts up with the brilliant Bounty Hunter. Doesn't matter who's singing it's got the solid bounds of a great track. I do like that one. Then we have the fantastic Whiskey Man from Flirtin with Disaster. Then we come up to some of the moderner albums. We have a track from Kingdom of the 12, and it's Why Don't You Take Me Home. I love that track. It's a really good track, and it's great live. Then Sons of the South and the Warriors of the Rainbow Ridge. Bit of American Pride from Justice. All these modern Molly Hatchet tracks all sound great. Then there's The Edge of Sundown, which is Danny Joe Brown's band cover. Really good. Full of the Peacemakers, which is an absolute wonderful track. No Guts, No Glory, that's from that album. Devil's Canyon, the title track, really good. Then we have a little bit of One Man's Pleasure again, that's another super track. The Creeper from Molly Hatchet. Don't get that very often on a live album, but it's always worth it. It's a good, solid track. In the Darkness from Justice. Stay with Justice for the title track. And then another one from the Justice album, Heaven Is Forever. I'm Gonna Live Till I Die. And then we go to the title track from Beating the Odds, one of my favourite tracks. Junkin City from Flirtin with Disaster. Dreams I'll Never See from the Molly Hatchet album. The Journey from Devil's Canyon, another great track. And we end proceedings with Flirtin with Disaster. A good album. I haven't heard a bad live album from Molly Hatchet. Jimmy Elkins does a great job, taking over from Phil. All I say, it lacks the two guitarists. That sound has sort of gone, but Bobby does a great job. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in number 6. This is an album released in 2005, and it's called Live in Hamburg. And it was filmed up, and it's a DVD as well, and it was filmed at Hamburg Harley Days, 24th of June 2004. So the band at the time was the great Phil McCormack, who was a great singer, sadly no longer with us. Bobby Ingram on guitars, Jake Rutter on guitars, John Galvin on keyboards, and Sean Beamer on drums. They have a little bit of an intro and slide straight in to Whiskey Man. Can't go wrong there, can you, from Flirtin the Disaster. Then they go into Bounty Hunter. They start off with some classics. Staying on the debut album, we go for a little bit of Gator Country. Then we go to the Warriors of the Rainbow Bridge for a bit of Moonlight Dancing on the Bayou. What a track that is live. The lovely Fall of the Peacemakers. Love that track. Devil's Canyon. Then Sean Beamer does a brilliant drum solo. They'll go straight into Beating the Odds. Son of the South on the Rainbow Bridge album. The Creeper comes out again, which is a great track. The Rainbow Bridge, the Warriors of the Rainbow Bridge. Then Mr. Galvin does a little bit of a keyboard solo. And then we have Bobby Ingram doing a guitar solo. And they go into Dreams You'll Never See. Pretty good live album. The sound, though, is great. Germany have just got this summer of making great live albums. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, then, coming in at number 5. This really came out in 2013. Recorded at Rockpalast in 1996. So the band at the time was on the vocals Mr. Phil McCormack, bass Mr. Andy McKinney, drums Matt Crawford, the guitars were Bobby Ingram, Brian Bassett, backing vocals Leslie Hawkins and Teresa McCoy. This one opens up with Bounty Hunter. You just can't go wrong. Then they do a cover. They did a cover of the song by Womack and Womack, It's All Over Now, which is from their Flirtin Disaster. Nice to hear that live, and it's really good live. A little bit of Gator Country. You just can't go wrong with that track. I keep saying that. Rolling Thunder from Devil's Canyon. Brilliant little track that one is. Then the title track, Devil's Canyon. We stay with that album for a bit of Coming Down from the Mountain. Cool track. Little bit of Whiskey Man from Flirtin with a Disaster. Dreams You'll Never See, I've Never Seen. Great version of that. Full of the Peacemakers. Stable track in there. Repertoire from No Guts or No Glory. The Journey from Devil's Canyon. And you can't have a Molly Hatchet set without Flirtin with Disaster. Lots of songs off the Devil's Canyon because I think this was the album of the time. It's a very good album. Live they are brilliant, so I'm going to give that an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay then, coming in at number 4. Now this came out in 2000, but this was recorded live at the Agora Ballroom, Atlanta in 1979. So this is a real classic lineup of Molly Hatchet. Danny Joe Brown on vocals, Steve Holland on the lead and rhythm guitars, Dwayne Rowland, Dave Hallbeck, Bruce Camp and Banner Thomas. Start off with a ball-wrenching version of Bounty Hunter. How do they top that? Well, they go and do Let the Good Times Roll from Flirtin with Disaster. Then a bit of Gator Country, The Creeper, T for Texas, Big Apple, Molly Hatchet from Molly Hatchet, absolutely killer. Dreams You'll Never See. Then we have Trust Your Old Friend. I love that track from the debut album. Then we have the Harp Jam, One Man's Pleasure from Flirtin with the Disaster. Then they do a great version of Cream's Crossroads, or Robert Johnson's Crossroads, and Boogie No More. An absolute gem of a concert. The classic lineup. I love this album, so I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.4. Okay then, coming at number 3. This is from 2003, and it's called Locked and Loaded. Recorded at Wacken. Always a great place to have a live album done. The band at the time were John Galvin, Russ Maxwell on guitars, Bobby Ingram was on guitars, Phil McCormack was doing the vocals, the bass was Jerry Scott, and Sean Beamer on the drums. Have the introduction straight in to Whiskey Man. Ladies and gentlemen, Molly Hatchet, boom, Whiskey Man. Love that track, of course. Then we go to the Kingdom of 12 album for a bit of Heart of the USA. Really good live. I think it's better live than in the studio. It's really good, got more atmosphere live. Gator County. Then a rare outing from the Devil Canyons album of Tatkanka. I just love that track. Down from the Mountains on this as well. Brilliant. Then we go to Beating the Odds for the title track. Mississippi Moondog from the Silent Reign of Heroes album. Absolutely killer. Then we stay on that album for a bit of Miss Saturday Night. They do Danny Joe Brown's Edge of Sundown. Dreams I'll Never See, the Allman Brothers cover from the debut, of course. And then we get Bounty Hunter. Then we have a track that they don't do very often, Dead and Gone, the Redneck song from Beating the Odds. White Lightning from Kingdom of the 12. Fallen of the Peacemakers. Lovely track, of course. No Guts and No Glory. We're staying. Then we go back for another track from the Silent, the Reign of Heroes, the Saddle Tramp. Lovely song. Then we have 3 tracks from the Kingdom of 12. Gypsy Trail, Tumbling Dice, Why Won't You Take Me Home. Brilliant versions of them songs from that album. A bit of the Journey from Devil's Canyon itself. And of course ending up with Flirtin with Disaster. Fantastic production. Sounds wonderful. Really good, solid album. So I'm going to give that an RTO ranking of 8.5. Coming in at number 2 then, we have an album that was recorded in 2006 at the Mountain Arts Centre. Came out in 2007 and it's just called Flirtin with Disaster Live. So the band was Tim Lindsley, Sean Beamer. The guitars were Bobby Ingram and Dave Hallbeck. Keyboards John Galvin, Phil McCormack on the vocals. Now it opens up from Flirtin with Disaster. We have Whiskey Man, and then they go and do a couple of tracks from the debut, Bounty Hunter and Gator County. Sun of the South from the Warriors of the Rainbow Bridge. Bit of Fall of the Peacemakers, of No Guts, No Glory. Devil's Canyon, Wonderful. Get the Game In from Warriors of the Rainbow Bridge. Beating the Obs, then Sean does us a fantastic drum solo. Bit of the Dancing of the Moon Home for the Bayou. Then we stay with the Rainbow Bridge, which is a lovely track. Then they go to the guitar solo. Bobby Ingram does the guitar solo from the long version of Layla. Dreams You'll Never See from the debut, and Flirting with Disaster. This is one of the best live albums from this lineup of Molly Hatchet. It's 14 great tracks, some of the best versions, and these songs, especially the later ones. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.6. But my number one, and I think there'd be an absolute riot if this wasn't, and of course it's got to be, it's their debut live album from 1985, Double Trouble. Recorded all over the place, in Jacksonville and Dallas. The band: Danny Joe Brown, lead guitars; Dave Hallbeck, guitars; Dwayne Rowland, John Galvin, Riff West on the bass, and Bruce Crump. We get open up with a bit of Whiskey Man. I can't get enough of that track. Probably the best version. Bounty Hunter and Gator Country. Absolute killer versions of those tracks on this album. Flirting with Disaster. Absolutely brilliant. Then we go to the Dee Dee's Done album for a bit of Stone in Your Heart. I just love that track. Best version of that, I think. Satisfied Man, of course, from the Dee Dee's Done. Another good version. Bloody Reunion from the Take No Prisoners. Oh, this classic Molly Hatchet here. Boogie No More. What more can you need? Then they do a cover of Freebird. Not as good as Lynyrd Skynyrd's, but it's pretty decent. Then we have Walk on the Side of the Angels, which is another cover. Walk With You, John Hall cover. Dreams You'll Never See, probably the best version of that as well from this band. Then they do a song, Edge of Sun Down. Brilliant because it's Danny Joe singing it. Absolutely killer. Then we have Fall of the Peacemakers, which is the best version of this song I've heard from No Guts and Glory. And then we end up with Beating the Odds. This is one of the great Southern Rock live albums, along with One More from the Road from Lynyrd Skynyrd. These two are classic live albums. This is the classic lineup of Molly Hatchet, and they play brilliantly on this. It is just a fantastic album. I love listening to this. Sometimes you'll put both Lynyrd Skynyrd and Molly Hatchet live on after each other, and it's a fantastic way to spend an afternoon. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay, that's all for... This is actually the last live album ranking of 2023. So this will be back in 2024. But what we got next now, there's no new albums I'm doing, so I've put this one in because I've always wanted to talk about this one. It's Jeff Buckley's Grace. So I'm going to do a one-off album review because obviously he only made the one album. So join me for that later. Bye for now.